thrown like a great millstone and casted into the sea, saying, Thus with man shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found with no power.
Do I believe in Jesus? No, I don't believe in Jesus. But do I believe in who we call the Messiah or who they call Yeshua? Yes, I do.
What's the difference?
Well, Jesus come from Caesar Borgia. That is Leonardo da Vinci, drew a picture of him. And when you start looking at Caesar Borgia, this was actually a murderous homosexual, man. And I'm not sitting here judging homosexuals or knocking homosexuals, but the Bible strictly speaks against it. But then we got a person being depicted as Jesus, which is blue-eyed and blonde hair. But when you look at the actual depiction of who they call Jesus in the book of Revelations, chapter 1, I believe, verses 14 on down, it says that his hair was woolly. Like a sheep. He had kinky naps. It said that his eyes were red as like they burned a fire. It also talked about his skin being brass. But brass is not only brown, but as if it burnt in a furnace. He was only brown, but as if it burnt in a furnace. He was a dark brown skinned brother. So when you start looking at him and his characteristics and how he acts, especially how he acted against the Sanhedrin, he was a very, very revolutionary brother. It don't depict a blonde, long-haired, blue-eyed white boy. It don't. You start going and you start following the children of Ham. Ham was black, so-called black, right? Abraham, black, so-called black. Japheth, black, so-called black. So all these, even the Edomites, they say Edom is white. No, so black. At that particular time, there wasn't any race called a white race or a pale-skinned people or person. You start seeing that due to certain genetic mutations through the biological evolutionary history of humans, where you see them pop up. And then they pop up out of the ice season, out of nowhere, out of caves. So we don't even know the story. And there's so many different stories around their creation. We don't even really know where they came from. And I'm not knocking white people. I got a bunch of white people that I actually dialogue with. That's colleagues of mine. We go over science, literature together, papers, and all types of stuff. But when you look at their history, they don't know where they came from, and we don't really know where they came from. We just know that they here. So I think the first thing,
who made them?
Man, hey, that's been a great debate, man. So I say that they're genetically modified. I say they're genetically modified melanated beings, but I get arguments sometimes, and a lot of people say that they was created and made in laboratories and stuff like that.
So they're basically AI. White folk basically like the first AI before AI.
Man, you be saying crazy.
I'm just saying, like, somebody just made these niggas.
So I think, me personally, I think they genetically modified black people, man. Me.
But how did they pop up though? If we was already here, how they pop up?
Man, that's a whole. We can do a whole podcast. That's like 2 hours of me explaining.
I said, shorten it up for me.
Man, he want me to touch on it. And I'll be, why you ain't coughing, man?
He like, shit, we in it now. Well, I'm gonna say it then, shit, because I'm gonna say it. I think it's a shortage on them too now.
Yeah, well, that's because they can't reproduce a lot. Especially a certain kind of them, they can't reproduce. They are dying quicker than they can repopulate. And that's the reason why now a lot of them, they're pushing agenda, especially their women, to go sleep with black men. You see it in the NBA industry. You're starting to see it in the rap industry a lot. You see it in the golf industry. You're starting to see it in the big industries to inherit our wealth and our golden semen. Because if you don't mix with black, you will become extinct.
But when you mix with black, it's black though, right?
Yeah, because just one drop of melanin, you can literally live 6 to 10 generations with one drop. Yeah. So they are figuring this out, and now you're starting to see a lot of white women intermingle and intermix races with us because of that. Because the longevity and future of the world is on our shoulders and backs. Just like how we built the world, it's all dependent on how we moving and what we're doing. And you got to remember too, we're the most influential people on the earth. And I'm talking about specifically so-called African Americans. There's Africans in Africa cussing, got guns, rapping like brothers from the ATL. You know what I'm saying? Like they out there right now rapping like us. On a gang in China, man. Boom, he got teardrops on his face.
So basically, you didn't say this, but basically what I'm getting, again, like everything just a product of us, basically.
Everything. But my question is, why us as a people can't look at that in its entirety and say, we the gods? And then from that, since I now identified myself as a God, God have a God diet. God have a God speech and language. God have a God relationship. God deals with people differently. God judges when he need to judge. God protect and provide when he need to. God show restraint. God
I want to give all the
God
praises
cry.
and the honor to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Recha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to the other elders, you brethren, you fellow believers of this truth. Shalom to you brothers and sisters that supports the truth. Shalom to the elect. So now I want to touch on this video. This guy named, I think his name is Yaki or something. He's pretty good in herbal healing from what I understand. I've seen him a few years back, but then he woke up to the fact that he was a Hebrew Israelite, but then it always skews somewhere. So the scripture says that he needs to be taught all over again, you know, the truth. Now, he understand who Esau is. I don't know his take on him as salvation, but this doctrine of being created in a laboratory, or we don't know where it comes from, is the Lord's, the Lord's words are going to tell you the truth. So this thing, I believe he might have been Muslim or something, and this is where we get that creation of the lab. So this is why you have to cut off everything that you were taught when you come into the truth. We'll get into that Yaqub thing in a second, but let me go to Genesis 36 and 9. Now, this video is not about who's salvation for, so forth and so on, or even the fact that they're Edomites. It's the fact that the argument is we don't know where the Edomites come from, right? Genesis 36 and 9, and these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites of Mount Seir, right? Now they come from Petra, Edom, right? Which means rock, caves. Caves mean holes, like cavities, so I think he knows that. So what we're going to do is go to Genesis 25. Back to the basics. Now, this is where your first beginning of Esau would have started. And yeah, it was a genetic mutation, but it wasn't some man in a laboratory, right? This is going in the story of, Isaac and Rebekah, when they had Jacob and Esau, right? So it says, and when her days were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So we go back up here. This is Isaac's sons, the generations of Isaac. Abraham, son of Abraham, begot Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister of Laban the Syrian, right? And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord entreated him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived, and the children struggled together with her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire to the Lord, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people. So that's where the key comes in, which shall be separated from thy bowels. So we're going to go to 25 again. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, right? And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. So there was no description of Jacob, but there was definitely a description of Esau, right? And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So now some Christians and even Hebrews will say he first came out red all over, and then they compare it to David being called ruddy. Now rude actually came from where they transferred it to ruddy because of the claiming redness. But ruddy really had nothing to do with color. Rudy is actually I guess the correct pronunciation was rude. And then because of not quite, it said Rudy, so, but then white supremacy hijacked that and made it seem like red, when melanation, is strong with the children of Israel, especially at that time, especially with the Messiah and King David. So it just meant handsome, good to look upon. In fact, other translations say, let me look it up real quick. Since I'm here. Let's go to ruddy. I think I want the one with David. He was ruddy, but a youth. So let me go back. It's 1742. Let's see what it says. Let's look up some other translations. He was good upon the look upon, ruddy, glowing with health and handsome. But a youth, ruddy. You see a lot of ruddy. Healthy and handsome. That's pretty much what it meant. I went to the other translations because Blue Letter don't have all the translations. It says the young man had a healthy complexion and looks good. What does it mean to have a healthy complexion? Is not having melanin a healthy complexion? Anyway, the ISV, while the Philistine looked and saw David, he was contempt, because he was only a young man. David had a dark and healthy complexion and was handsome. I just wanted to bring that out. People get mixed up on red and ruddy, because when you go to Genesis 25 and 25, it doesn't say ruddy. But somehow when you look up red, they'll put it in a definition. Red, ruddy. It had nothing to do with ruddy. Yeah, they went off on that one. And it's because of over the years of translations. You know what I'm saying? The years of translations and how somebody interpret red, it sounds so close to ruddy that the color red really had nothing to do with ruddy. It was just handsome, melanated, handsome complexion. Let's go to the root, reddish, right? Yeah, so the look, the glow, the grow red, right? To be rubbed red, dyed red. So that's the key. Let me go back here. It all makes sense once you go do the study, the legwork. Now, it's important to know that Genesis 25, back to Genesis 25, in 25, it says the first came out red all over, and it says likened unto the hairy garment. And it was a description of fur, or how certain, say a reddish tint. I was reading on that, or a reddish bag. And they have examples in the Bible that not technically talking about him being hairy, but it just meaning being wasted. You know what I'm saying? So, because he was red, and this is why they had to retrieve to the mountains, and them high altitudes. Just like in Vietnam, they was getting their asses handed to them with the mosquitoes. It represents death, and this is why you look at the vampire movies, right? Now, to be clear, some of our people look white right now. I'm just saying, and that's the curse. It says your seed shall be cursed. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like it's all white people, because there's some white people who are the elect, or Israelites, of all, look like all nations. So we go to Psalm 6 and 7. My eyes consumed because of grief, it waxeth old because of all mine enemies. Now we go in the time of David, when he got old, Solomon, a lot of these men, when you get old, your eyes fail, who else? David, Solomon, you get the point. Isaac, because he couldn't even hardly see. you know, and then this is when you get that tint in your eyes and cataracts to try to compensate and protect the eye lens. But it's really your eyes are failing as you get older. You hit a certain age, your eyes are beginning to die, beginning to fail. You reach a peak and then you drop down. That's waxing away, you know. And this is what happened with Esau's skin color, you know. Let's look up this word to be consumed. Let's see what it says. My eyes shall be consumed. Let's see what it say.
Strong's H 6244. Ashash.
Yeah, it means to Ashwa means to fail. You know, so his skin failed. You know, he don't have the melanation, and it's just what it is. This was not created in some laboratory. This was a genetic mutation, but it's what the Lord did through Isaac. Now, I don't know why he doesn't know that, but hey, it is what it is. Colossians 2:8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deception, after the traditions of men and the rudiments of the world, and not after the Messiah. That's all deception. So what I decided to do, I wanted to look up more on this Yaqub character. According to teachings of Wallace Fard Muhammad, I think he was a Turkish man, the founder of NOI, and Elijah Muhammad Yaqub was a brilliant but big-headed scientist born in Mecca approximately 6,600 years ago. The scientific discovery, the story goes that at age 6, Yaqub discovered the law of attraction and repulsion. He played, one of them folk tales. By playing with magnets, he eventually realized that the original black man contained both a black germ and a brown germ. The island of Patmos, after being exiled for his radical ideas. Wait a minute. He was on the island of Patmos, not John the Revelator. This is why it's dangerous to mix the Bible with the Quran. Yaqub had 59,999 followers, went to the island of Patmos. There he began 600 years of selective breeding process, often called grafting, to isolate, to receive the brown. I'm not going to read any more to this. But creation races. The process allegedly created a hierarchy of races. First the brown race, then the red and yellow races, and finally the white Caucasian race. So this scientist created all these races. Yeah, from being brown. So if, what's his name? The basketball player. I can't remember his name. Blake Griffin, who laid down with his wife, who was a white woman. Well, his father laid down with a white woman and had him. Then he laid down with his wife and with a white woman. And then they got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed child. I wonder if that's I guess you could say a genetic mutation. But where was Yaqub in on that? You know why doctrine, the white race was created by the race of devils, destined to rule the earth 6,000 years ago through tricknology. So in other words, it was another black man who created the white race. Yeah, it seems to be true, but not by Yaqub. The science of deception before the black race would eventually return to its rightful place in power. When you're a people so oppressed, you try to find answers, and that's the problem now. It's not a problem. That's what the Lord wants. You got everybody seeking and running, as the scripture says, turn to and fro, seeking knowledge around the earth shall be increased. And this is what happened. People want answers of what happened to us. This is the problem with Hebrew Israelites. And so-called black people in general. We always need an identity. You know, but the Christians say just stay Christian, follow white Jesus, and there's your identity. So this man is woken up, but he's got some more awakening to do, you know. Anyway, that's all I have on that. Shalom.